I the a-hole for telling my mom to adopt instead of planning to use me as a surrogate? So the title sounds exactly the way it is. I recently turned 16, but my mom was talking to me about this starting when I was 14. A little backstory. My mom was previously in a bad relationship with my birth father, and after having 4 kids including me, she was forced to get her tubes tied. That was forever ago, and now she's married to my stepfather. My mom is all about kids, and she always talks about wanting more. So when I was 14, I was in a car with her when she brought up surrogacy. I had no idea what that meant at the time, so she explained it to me. She talked on and on about how she hopes that one of my sisters or I would give birth to a kid and give it to her one day. I didn't think much of it at the time. This has been going on for the past 2 years. Flash forward to today. I was in a car with my mom, and we were driving home from the store. We were listening to music when she turned it down and started talking about the surrogacy thing again. This time, it was slightly different. She started talking about how she wants me specifically to give birth to a baby and give it to her. She point blank asked me if I would do it despite numerous conversations that I have had with her talking about how I never want kids or to give birth. I was in total shock. I literally just turned 16 back in June. I didn't speak for a second, but I answered back and told her that I would probably need a few years to think about it, and that instead of going through all the trouble of getting a brand new baby, she should look into adopting because there's a ton of kids who needs a family. She instantly got mad at me and started talking about how she doesn't want to do that because she doesn't want to have to deal with the kids not accepting her as their mother. I told her that that wouldn't matter if she tried her best to be a good mother to them. She started yelling about how I was a jerk and about how she had raised me to deserve something back. At this time, we were in our driveway, so I got out of the car and went into my room. She hasn't said anything to me ever since it happened this morning. I am unsure whether or not I am the a-hole, so I have come to Reddit. So, am I the a-hole for telling my mom to adopt? Edit. I did not expect this to get this much attention already. Just to clarify, I am not the oldest sister. I'm actually the youngest. My older sisters are 17 and 18. And no, I have no family that I could stay with. My birth dad's side of the family are terrible people, and all live in Texas, my birth state, and I currently live in another state. My mom's side of the family lives in Idaho. Now for the top comments. This is horror movie crap. No normal mother talks like this. Get out of this household ASAP. Edited to add. Can't believe I forgot to add this. Call CPS. OP, this is not normal. Not at all. Call CPS and leave when you turn 18. This is not normal. This in a nutshell. This mom has some kind of emotional or psychological issue. The children need to be removed from her care and placed with someone who isn't going to try to make them carry a pregnancy for them. Not a-hole. And oh my god, this is so messed up. You cannot be her surrogate. You cannot be a surrogate for your first pregnancy anyways. You are way too young. Jesus Christ. Rereading this, and she doesn't even want to be a surrogate. She just wants you to literally give her a child. Get out of there, girl. She's crazy, and there's no telling what she's going to do. Exactly. Sleep with the door locked, and maybe tell a counselor. Holy crap. Get a job, get your own bank account, save up, and leave the moment you turn 18. I'd call CPS now. I second both of these. What the actual hell? Not a-hole. Asking a teenager to be a surrogate is sick. Asking your 16-year-old daughter to be a surrogate for yourself is freaking insane. And she first brought up the subject when Opie was 14. I mean, holy crap, this is terrible. Opie, please listen to what people are saying about calling CPS. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for making my mom look bad? My female 16 mom has this belief that she should only pay for the essentials. Food, water, shelter, the cheapest phones she could get her hands on, and just enough clothes so we don't freeze or walk around naked. And we're on our own for everything else. We also don't get an allowance, and in my neighborhood, it's nearly impossible to get a job before you're 16. When I was in 6th grade, my teacher had the system where he'd give us 1 minute after the bell rang to unpack. Once all of us were in our seats, he'd stop the timer and write the remaining time left on the board. Once it added up to an hour, we'd get a pizza party. The cost of the pizza parties was $2 for pizza and $6 for a smoothie or milkshake. I didn't have money, and my mom wouldn't give me money, so I was the only person without a smoothie or milkshake at these parties. The teacher usually felt bad for me and gave me pizza anyway. It was kind of humiliating, sitting there and watching the teacher pass out everyone's orders, and being the only person without any food or getting the leftover slice of pizza. In March, when all the schools and daycares shut down and people were desperate for a nanny, I started working 12+ hours a day, 7 days a week, and made pretty good money. I still babysat 4 days a week during the school year, and I'm working 6 days a week now, so I have a pretty good amount of money coming in. So I can do things with my class and leave when I'm 18. My sister, female 11, is going to 6th grade and will have the same teacher. So at the beginning of the year, I told her to let me know when they have pizza parties and I'll pay for it. We were staying with my grandparents when she got her schedule. And when I told her and my grandma asked what I meant and why would I pay for her pizza parties, I told her that our mom refuses to pay for anything for us that isn't deemed essential. Also, I told her about how I was the only kid in the class without a milkshake and stuck with a leftover slice of pizza if I even got any. My mom and my grandparents have been fighting since, and it's kind of my fault. So I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. Edit. I saw a lot of comments on this, so I wanted to put it in an edit. My mom can't afford to give us more than the bare minimum. She goes out to eat multiple times a week and goes on weekend trips at least once every other month. And about my dad, he died when I was 6, so he can't really help. Not the a-hole. They ask, and you explained. If your mother knew it would make her look awful, she shouldn't have done it. You didn't make your mom look bad, OP. Your mom did that all by herself. You're being a good big sister, and stay out of it if your grandparents, hopefully, put her in her place. Not the a-hole. True. OP could have easily thought, it's a growing experience I had to go through, but a totally useless and embarrassing one to have to learn as a child. Good on her for already being a better role model than her own mother. Not the a-hole. If your mother was embarrassed by her actions, then she should not have acted that way. She is ashamed of herself and is trying to defend her actions to her mother. It has nothing to do with you. This. If you can't defend an action which more than one person knows of, as Ben Franklin said, 3 can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead, then she damn well shouldn't have pulled that move. She made herself look bad. Not the a-hole. If anything, you're a goddamn saint. All you did was tell the truth and spare your sister the pain you felt. Agreed. OP, how is this your fault? Did you choose to be the only kid without food? Did you even choose to work almost full-time hours while still a teenager? Or was that something you had to do because of the choices of others? None of this is your fault. Those are just the consequences of your mother's actions coming home to roost. Not the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for cutting my father's family out of my life? Background. My father passed away when I was 8 years old. My mother decided to honor his wish by staying close to his family. My grandmother assisted in raising me, and while she emotionally and physically mistreated me, I still care about her. My father had 2 brothers, Tom older, and Derek younger. I used to be closer to Tom, but Derek always treated me like I was a little sister trying to get his mommy's attention. He's always been a mama's boy, and tries to solve all his problems with his fists. Now for the story. I moved away in 2015 after living and taking care of my grandmother. She did not want to move to Texas, so she moved to Washington to be around Tom for a while. Derek remained in Missouri, and my mother came with me. I remained close with my grandmother. I would call her when I was walking home from work, and we would spend a lot of time talking. Our relationship was better now that we were living apart. Tom and Derek would both yell at me about talking to her, but she would get upset if I didn't call her. She would insist that I keep open talks with my uncles. I was always polite, but I never felt comfortable around them due to things that had happened in the past. Fast forward to 2020, and we lost my grandmother to the virus in Easter. Near the end, Tom called me and said I was not to call the hospital for updates, as he would text me an update. This update consisted of a group text to Derek, myself, and several cousins. When she passed, he called and said he'd update me. I waited for when the funeral would be, or if we would do like a phone call. My grandmother was United Pentecostal, highly against cremation due to thinking she'd not get raptured someday. Tom texted the group and said that he cremated her. I texted back and asked what he was thinking. He had her will in his hand. All expenses had been paid already. I had a copy of her will. He said they wouldn't let him bury her, that he had to cremate her due to the virus. I called him on this BS and pointed out that they did not say anything about having to have a cremation. He told me if I didn't shut up, I wouldn't get my inheritance, and that it will all go to him and Derek. I held my tongue. He said to text me when they were going to bury her ashes at the end of summer. I waited. I messaged him around the end of August, and he said they weren't going to do it until spring, blaming the virus again. Okay. In October, I get a text with pictures of him, Derek, and a few other family members burying her ashes. No one called or texted me that this was happening. I was very hurt. I mean, they could have at least called me on the phone and said, "Hey, we're going to bury Grandma. If you can't come, we can at least call and let you listen to the funeral." I'm just done with these toxic people in my life. But my mother's telling me I'm being an a-hole by not trying to keep in contact with them and keeping my grandmother's wishes of talking to them. I don't think I am, but am I? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Sometimes you have to just remove yourself from a toxic situation. No one deserves to be treated like that. Not the a-hole. I don't know, but maybe you should talk to a lawyer just in case. I don't know if it's illegal, but if it's in the will she wanted to not be cremated, I think maybe you should talk to a lawyer. Also, if they wanted to withhold inheritance from you, you should talk to a lawyer. I'd try to get evidence on them for that stuff. Also, with your mom saying to hold your grandma's wishes and to talk to them, they didn't hold her wishes to not be cremated. So I don't think she should be mad at you for anything when they did something as awful as that to her. Not the a-hole. And I'm sorry you lost your grandma to COVID. Not being notified about a funeral would definitely be the end of the relationship for me. I'm sorry they did that to you. My opinion? They chose to cut contact, not you. You stayed in contact while your grandma was here, which was her wish. Not telling you about funeral plans was childish and petty. They knew what they were doing. I also don't think they can make changes to your grandma's will because they want to. Make sure you check into that and get the inheritance that's rightfully yours, if your grandma included you in her will. Not the a-hole. Threatening to withhold inheritance is enough to cut them out, in my opinion. Don't jump through the hoops that people who treat you poorly enjoy setting. Anyone who says otherwise either loves setting the hoops or is conditioned to enable such poor behavior. Not the a-hole. Controlling the flow of information to you, to which you are morally entitled to, is an act of mistreatment. It was done to me. My bio father ended himself, and no one was going to tell me. My 90-year-old grandfather demanded someone drive him to tell me a week later. I know when my grandparents die, no one will tell me. I have made my peace with it. However, like you, I realize these people add nothing to my life except their toxicity and control issues. Feel free to remove any feelings of guilt, as you have nothing for which to be guilty or ashamed. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not consoling my sister after her baby was taken by CPS? My sister, female 19, had her 2-month-old daughter taken after my sister tested positive for hardcore substances. My niece was found malnourished and had not even reached her birth weight yet, which was a little over 6 pounds. My sister and her boyfriend, male 24, also sold products to other people out of the house. My mom, female 49, went over when CPS said that they needed someone else over to watch the baby while they were waiting for the test to come back. My mom watched as the boyfriend would constantly leave the house and come back higher than the time before. My mom also found some white powder in the bag in the bathroom that she flushed, and when the boyfriend found out, he flipped and screamed at her and told her, "Do you know how much that was worth?" My mom eventually left later that night because she watched them smoke right beside the baby, and they defended it, saying that the window was open. My mom called CPS and explained everything she witnessed, but CPS basically said that until the results of the test came back, that they weren't going to do anything. They took my niece a week later. Now, usually I stick up for my sister, but this time was too far, with the fact that a defenseless child was involved, and sent her a not-so-nice text about how disappointed I was in her, and then blocked her. I've gotten a lot of angry texts and have been ghosted by another sibling because I wasn't being supportive, and in their words, she needs us more than ever right now. It's been a couple months and I don't know much about the situation at all since I blocked her. Other info that may help. My sister constantly lied about not having money, so family would send her some, in which she would promptly spend on scores. She shoplifted on a constant basis. She claimed that my niece started sleeping through the night by a week old, and when she received a little concerned backlash, she claimed that her doctor said it was fine. My mom mentioned that the baby was extremely sleepy and that she spent most of the time in the crib sleeping. CPS did test the baby for substances too. However, we don't know the outcome of that. My sister told my mom she had just recently tried certain stuffs, and that is why she won't come back clean, but didn't like it, so she wasn't actually doing anything at the time. My mom said that my sister was on substances the entire time she was there, and couldn't walk straight, which scared my mom, especially when she was holding the baby. Explanation on why I may be the a-hole here because my siblings are very upset with me, and that I could have been more supportive considering she just lost her child, and she needs some support to get clean herself so she gets her daughter back. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I'd have called CPS myself. Apparently, people who were going over to buy from them were actually making reports, because even they were concerned for the baby. They had a ton of reports by the time they actually decided to take any action on it. Not the a-hole. Addicts are often manipulative, and anyone close to them will get played. Keep your distance until she's clean and legitimately making amends. I definitely plan to. Thank you. Screw that. Not the a-hole. I can't say what I'd do to any family member that did that to a baby because I'd be banned from Reddit. Your sister is a vile human being. Exactly how I felt. Couldn't imagine she did what she did and was livid. However, my family has a rather awful history. I and all 6 of my siblings were in foster care at some point in our lives. So if that explains my family's dynamics a bit, I hope so.